The hunting pack of Vorthak cruisers materialized from hyperspace like predators, sensing wounded prey. Their sleek, biomechanical hulls gleamed with a sickly green phosphorescence as they surrounded the lone human vessel drifting in the void. Captain Zexthal clicked his mandibles in satisfaction, watching the tactical display show the small ship's failing power signature. Finally, he hissed through his translator implant. The infamous Marcus Kane, terror of the Outer Rim, reduced to this pathetic wreck. For 3 standard cycles, Kane had been a thorn in the Vorthak Empire's expansion plans. Single-handedly, he had destroyed supply convoys, liberated slave worlds, and somehow always escaped their traps. The bounty on his head could buy a small moon, and every hunter in the galaxy wanted that prize. The human ship looked barely functional. Scorch marks covered its hull. One engine was completely dark, and debris trailed behind it like blood from a wounded animal. No shields, minimal power, and, according to their scans, only one life sign aboard. "Sir, should we disable their engines?" asked Lieutenant Mordan from the weapons station. Zexthal's 4 eyes narrowed. "No need. Look at that rust bucket. It's already dying. Send a boarding party. I want Kane alive for questioning before we collect the bounty." The boarding shuttle detached from the lead cruiser, carrying 20 of the Empire's finest assault troops. Vorthak warriors stood 7 feet tall, with natural armor plating and razor-sharp claws that could tear through steel. They had never met a species they couldn't subdue through pure physical superiority. As the shuttle approached the human vessel, something nagged at Zexthal's mind. Kane had never been captured before, never even come close. The man was like smoke, always slipping away just when victory seemed certain. This felt too easy. The boarding shuttle clamped onto the human ship's airlock. Through the comm link, Zexthal heard his troops cutting through the outer door. Metal screamed and sparked as they forced entry. "Breach successful, sir," reported Sergeant Kralvok. "Moving into the ship now. It's dark in here. Emergency lighting only." The assault team moved through narrow corridors designed for smaller beings. Their massive frames barely fit, and they had to duck at every junction. The ship seemed deserted except for the steady hum of failing life support. "Contact ahead," whispered one of the soldiers. "Single human. Appears to be working at a console." Zexthal leaned forward in his command chair. Through the soldier's helmet camera, he could see a figure hunched over what looked like an engineering station. The human wore a torn flight suit and moved with the desperate motions of someone trying to repair critical systems. "Surround him. Remember, I want him alive." 20 Vorthak warriors emerged from the shadows, plasma rifles trained on the lone human. The figure slowly raised his hands and turned around. Marcus Kane looked exactly like his wanted posters: weathered face, graying hair, and eyes that had seen too much war. But something was wrong. He was smiling. "Marcus Kane," Sergeant Kralvok announced through his armor's external speakers. "You are under arrest by order of the Vorthak Empire. Surrender now, and you'll not be harmed." Kane's smile widened. "You know, I've been waiting for you guys for hours. Starting to think you weren't coming." The sergeant's confusion was evident even through his translator. "You were waiting for us?" "Oh, yes. See, the thing about being hunted across the galaxy is that you learn patterns. The Vorthak Empire always sends exactly 20 soldiers for a boarding action. Always uses the same breach tactics. Always underestimates humans." Kane's voice carried an odd note of amusement. "You want to know the real difference between your species and mine?" Without waiting for an answer, Kane pressed something on his belt. The lights in the corridor suddenly blazed to full power, revealing that what the Vorthak had thought was a crippled ship was anything but. Hidden panels slid away, revealing weapons systems that definitely weren't standard merchant vessel equipment. "The difference," Kane continued as emergency klaxons began wailing throughout the Vorthak fleet, "is that when humans are cornered, we don't just fight back. We evolve." The sergeant raised his weapon, but Kane was already moving. What happened next would be analyzed by military tacticians for decades. The humans seemed to flow like liquid shadow, somehow avoiding 20 different lines of fire in a space barely large enough for the Vorthak soldiers to stand upright. From his command deck, Zexthal watched in growing horror as his elite troops were systematically dismantled by a single human. Kane moved with inhuman speed and precision, using the confined space against his larger opponents. He turned their own size into a weakness, making them stumble into each other while he struck at joints in their armor with weapons that seemed to appear from nowhere. All units, fall back to the shuttle, Kralvok ordered, but it was too late. The airlock had sealed itself, trapping the boarding party inside the human ship. On his tactical display, Zexthal saw something that made his blood run cold. The human vessel's power signature was climbing rapidly, far too rapidly for a ship that had appeared nearly dead moments before. "Sir," his sensor operator called out, voice tight with fear. "I'm reading massive energy spikes from the human ship. And, sir, I'm detecting additional contacts emerging from hyperspace." Zexthal's worst fears were confirmed as his sensors identified the new arrivals. Human warships, sleek and deadly, dropping out of faster-than-light travel with military precision. Not just one or two, but an entire battle group. The trap he thought he had set was actually a trap set for him. And Marcus Kane, the man they called the Reaper of the Rim, had just revealed why that nickname was more accurate than any of them had realized. The silence on the Vorthak command bridge was deafening as Captain Zexthal stared at his tactical display. 12 human warships had materialized around his hunting pack, their weapons already charging. The energy readings were unlike anything in Vorthak military databases. "Communications incoming from the human fleet," his operator reported with a trembling voice. "On screen," Zexthal commanded, trying to maintain his composure even as his confidence crumbled. The view screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the lead human vessel. A woman with steel-gray eyes and admiral's insignia stood at the center, flanked by officers whose calm demeanor was somehow more terrifying than any display of aggression. Captain Zexthal of the Vorthak Imperial Navy. Admiral Sarachen's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "You have approximately 30 seconds to release Commander Kane and his boarding party before we demonstrate why hunting humans is considered the galaxy's most dangerous sport." Zexthal's mandibles clicked frantically. Commander? Kane wasn't some rogue pirate. He was an active military officer. The implications hit him like a plasma bolt. Every raid, every destroyed convoy, every liberated world hadn't been the work of a lone wolf. It had been a military operation. "Admiral," Zexthal tried to project strength he didn't feel. "Your officer was operating in Vorthak space without authorization. We were within our rights to 15 seconds, Chen interrupted. Her expression hadn't changed, but something in her eyes made Zexthal's skin crawl. "I should mention that Commander Kane requested permission to handle this personally. I'm starting to think that might have been more merciful." Through the comm link, Zexthal could hear the sounds of combat from inside the human ship. His elite boarding party was being systematically eliminated by a single human. The thought was impossible, yet the evidence was undeniable. "Sir," his weapons officer called out, "the human ships are powering up weapons systems I don't recognize. Energy signatures are off the charts." Zexthal made a desperate decision. "All ships, open fire. Target the lead." His order was cut short as every weapon system on his flagship suddenly went dark. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply offline. The other cruisers in his pack reported the same phenomenon. They were floating helpless in space while human ships surrounded them like sharks circling wounded prey. "Ow," he whispered. Admiral Chen seemed to hear him despite the distance. 3 years ago, your empire made a crucial mistake. You attacked a human research station and kidnapped our scientists to study our technology. What you failed to realize is that those scientists were working on quantum warfare applications. Every weapon system, every computer core, every technological advantage you thought you had was reverse engineered from human designs you stole." The full horror of the situation dawned on Zexthal. The Vorthak Empire's recent technological leap forward, the new weapons that had allowed them to expand so aggressively. All of it had been built on stolen human research. And now those same humans had simply turned off their own technology. We know every line of code, every circuit pathway, every quantum frequency your ships operate on, Chen continued, because we designed them. The question now is whether you're intelligent enough to learn from this experience. On the internal monitors, Zexthal watched the last of his boarding party fall silent. The corridor was filled with unconscious Vorthack soldiers. Unconscious, not dead. Somehow, Kane had neutralized 20 elite warriors without killing a single one. The message was clear. This wasn't about Vorthack lives. It was about sending a message. Kane's voice crackled through the comm system. Admiral, package secured. Ready for extraction. Negative, Commander, Chen replied. Your mission isn't complete yet. Zexthal felt a chill run down his spine. Mission? This had all been planned. Kane hadn't been running from them. He had been leading them into position. The human ship that had appeared so damaged began to transform. Hidden armor plating deployed, weapon ports opened, and engines that had seemed dead roared to life with power levels that made Zexthal's instruments scream warnings. What had looked like a barely functional freighter revealed itself as a warship disguised with holographic projectors and false energy signatures. Captain Zexthal. Kane's voice now carried a different tone. Not the desperate survivor they thought they had cornered, but the confident predator who had been hunting them. I have a message for the Vorthack High Command. Humanity is officially ending its period of quiet observation. The tactical display showed Kane's ship maneuvering toward the largest of the Vorthack cruisers, Zexthal's flagship. Despite having no functional weapons, the alien captain found himself backing away from his command console, as if the human could reach through space itself. For the past 5 years, humans have been studying your empire's expansion patterns, military capabilities, and technological limitations. Every convoy you've raided, every world you've conquered, every species you've enslaved, we've been taking notes. Kane's ship docked with the Vorthack flagship's main hangar bay. Through internal sensors, Zexthal watched a single figure in advanced power armor stride through his ship's corridors. His remaining crew scrambled to get out of the way, their warrior instincts telling them this was not a fight they could win. The Terran Defense Council has decided that the Vorthack Empire's expansion has gone far enough. As of today, you have 2 choices. Begin immediate withdrawal from all occupied systems and release all enslaved populations, or face the consequences of a species that has been preparing for this conversation for half a decade. The hangar bay doors opened, and Marcus Kane walked on his Zexthal's bridge as if he owned it. He had removed his helmet, revealing a face that showed no mercy, no fear, and no doubt about the outcome of this encounter. In his hands was a datapad that he placed on Zexthal's command console that contains the locations of every Vorthack military installation, supply depot, and command center in this sector of the galaxy. We know where your fleets are, where your leaders hide, and exactly how to bring your entire expansion to a grinding halt. Zexthal stared at the datapad in disbelief. The information displayed showed detailed intelligence on military assets that were supposed to be classified at the highest levels. Bases that had been hidden for decades, secret weapons development facilities, even the personal bunkers of the Imperial High Command. This is impossible, he breathed. How could you possibly know all of this? Kane smiled, and for the first time, Zexthal understood why other species feared human expressions of happiness. Captain, you've been fighting the wrong war. While your empire was focused on conquest and expansion, humanity was fighting a much more sophisticated battle. We've been inside your networks, your communication systems, your government databases for years. Every order you've received, every strategic plan you've followed, every secret mission you've carried out, we've known about it before your own soldiers did. The weight of the revelation crushed down on Zexthal like a collapsing star. The Vorthack Empire hadn't just underestimated humanity's military capabilities. They had completely misunderstood the nature of human warfare itself. While Vorthack fought with claws and plasma rifles, humans fought with information, preparation, and the patience to plan operations across decades rather than battle cycles. Admiral Chin's image flickered back onto the main screen as Kane stood beside Captain Zexthal's command chair. The Vorthak commander had gone completely still, his alien features frozen in an expression that transcended species, pure, undiluted fear. "Commander Kane," Chin addressed her officer formally. "Please proceed with Phase 2 of the demonstration." Kane nodded and activated a holographic projector built into his armor. The bridge filled with a three-dimensional map of Vorthak space, showing every world, every fleet, every strategic asset in real time. But what made Zexthal's blood turn to ice were the red indicators appearing throughout the display, human assets already in position. "Captain, meet the real Terran Defense Council," Kane began, his voice carrying the weight of inevitable judgment. "While your intelligence services were tracking one human ship, mine, they completely missed the fact that we've been systematically infiltrating every major system in your empire." The hologram zoomed in on a heavily fortified world deep in Vorthak space. Zexthal recognized it immediately. Corval Prime, the Empire's primary weapons manufacturing center. According to the display, human infiltration teams had been in place for over 2 years. The mining operation on Sector 7 has been run by humans in biological disguises for 18 months, Kane continued. Every rare mineral shipment you've received has been carefully cataloged. We know exactly what weapons you're building and how to counter them. Another system highlighted on the map. This time it showed the location of the Imperial fleet's main staging area, where over 300 Vorthak warships were supposedly hidden in a nebula that blocked most sensor scans. Admiral Thexkar believes his fleet is safely concealed in the Morven Nebula, Kane said with a cold smile. What he doesn't know is that the nebula is full of human sensor drones that have been mapping every ship movement for the past 6 months. We know which ships are operational, which ones need repairs, and exactly when their patrol schedules rotate. Zexthal found his voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "How many of you are there?" Kane's expression didn't change. "Wrong question, Captain. The right question is, how many of us aren't there?" See, humans learned something very important from studying your empire's expansion patterns. You conquer through overwhelming force and obvious presence. You want everyone to know you're coming, so they'll surrender out of fear. The holographic display shifted to show communication intercepts, thousands of them. Vorthak military frequencies, government channels, even personal communications between high-ranking officials. All of it had been monitored and recorded. "Humans prefer a different approach," Kane continued. "We've been living among you, working with you, earning your trust while learning everything about how your society functions. That maintenance worker who's been repairing your communication arrays? Human. The supply clerk who's been managing your food shipments? Human. The technical advisor who helped upgrade your computer systems last year? Also human." The full scope of the infiltration was staggering. The hologram showed human agents embedded at every level of Vorthak society, from low-level technicians to advisors working directly with the Imperial High Command. Years of careful placement, patient observation, and meticulous planning had given humanity complete access to every aspect of Vorthak civilization. But the real masterpiece, Kane said, his voice carrying a note of professional pride, was convincing your empire to adopt our technology in the first place. Zexthal's confusion must have been obvious, because Kane elaborated without being asked. 3 years ago, when your forces attacked that research station, you thought you were stealing advanced human technology. What you actually stole was a carefully prepared intelligence package designed to be captured. Every circuit, every program, every quantum algorithm was built with hidden access codes that we could activate when necessary. The implications hit Zexthal like a physical blow. The Vorthak Empire's technological revolution, their rapid expansion capabilities, their improved weapons and communication systems, all of it had been a deliberate gift from humanity. A gift with very specific terms and conditions. You turned your entire military into an extension of our intelligence network, Admiral Chen's voice cut through his thoughts. Every ship you built with our stolen technology, every communication system you installed, every weapon you manufactured, all of it has been reporting back to us in real time. The tactical display on Zexthol's bridge suddenly came alive with new contacts. Human ships were decloaking throughout Vorthack space, appearing near every major military installation simultaneously. Not attacking, just revealing themselves. The message was clear. Humanity could strike anywhere, anytime, and the Vorthack Empire would never see it coming. "This is impossible," Zexthol muttered. "Our intelligence services would have detected such a massive operation." Kane pulled out another device and activated it. The bridge filled with holographic recordings of Vorthack intelligence meetings, strategy sessions, and classified briefings. In many of them, Zexthol could see human advisors sitting at the conference tables, openly participating in discussions about how to counter human threats. "Captain, meet Special Agent Linda Harrison of Terran Intelligence," Kane said, pointing to a figure Zexthol recognized as one of the Empire's most trusted xenobiological consultants. "She's been advising your intelligence services on human behavior patterns for the past 2 years. Every counter-strategy your people developed against human tactics came from suggestions she provided." The woman in the recording was speaking with authority about human psychological weaknesses and recommended approaches for defeating human forces. Watching it now, Zexthol realized that every piece of advice had been designed to make Vorthack forces more predictable and easier to counter. "Your entire anti-human strategy was written by humans," Chen added from the main screen. "Every tactic you've used against our forces, every trap you've tried to set, every psychological warfare technique you've employed, all of it was designed to fail in exactly the ways that would give us the most useful intelligence about your capabilities." Kane moved to the navigation console and began accessing Zexthol's personal files. The Vorthack captain wanted to stop him, but found himself frozen in place, watching as years of classified information scrolled past on the displays. For example, Kane said conversationally as he worked, "Your hunting pack wasn't sent to capture me because your superiors thought you had a good chance of success. You were sent because Admiral Chun specifically requested that I be allowed to field test some new infiltration protocols. Your orders came through normal channels, but the original suggestion was planted by one of our agents in the High Command." The full picture was becoming horrifyingly clear. The Vorthack Empire hadn't been expanding through their own strength and cunning. They had been guided, manipulated, and controlled by human intelligence operations from the very beginning. Every victory they thought they had earned had been permitted. Every strategy they had developed had been suggested to them. Even their decision to hunt Marcus Kane had been orchestrated by the humans themselves. "Why?" Zexthol finally managed to ask. "If you could control us so completely, why allow us to expand at all?" Kane paused in his data extraction and looked directly at the alien captain. For a moment, his expression softened slightly, showing something that might have been regret. "Because, Captain, sometimes the only way to save a species from itself is to let it learn the hard way. The Vorthack Empire was always going to try expanding beyond your borders. Your culture, your biology, your entire social structure drives you toward conquest and domination. We could have stopped you 5 years ago, but that would only have delayed the inevitable conflict." The human gestured toward the holographic display showing the extent of Vorthack expansion. Hundreds of worlds, billions of enslaved beings, resources stripped from entire star systems to fuel the Empire's growth. Instead, we decided to let you expand while carefully controlling the direction and pace of that expansion. Every world you conquered, we made sure it wasn't strategically crucial. Every species you enslaved, we ensured they would survive the experience. Every resource you extracted, we verified it wouldn't cause ecological collapse. Zexthol stared at the map with new understanding. The Vorthack expansion hadn't been random or organic. It had followed very specific patterns, avoiding certain systems while targeting others. At the time, he had attributed it to superior Vorthack strategic planning. Now he realized it had been human strategic planning all along. Kane finished downloading the data from Zexthal's personal files and turned to face the alien captain directly. The weight of absolute defeat hung in the air between them like a physical presence. The demonstration phase is now complete, Admiral Chun announced from the main screen. Captain Zexthal, you have a choice to make. You can return to the High Command with our terms, or you can refuse and watch your empire collapse in real time. Kane activated his projector one final time. The holographic display showed the current positions of every major Vorthack fleet, but now it also revealed something that made Zexthal's mind struggle to process the information. Human ships weren't just positioned near Vorthack assets. They were positioned inside Vorthack formations, perfectly camouflaged and undetected by alien sensors. Every major fleet in your empire currently has human vessels integrated into their formations, Kane explained. Your flagship carriers, your battleship squadrons, your patrol groups, all of them have been infiltrated. The ships beside you right now that you think are Vorthack vessels? Half of them are human ships using holographic disguises and false transponder codes. Zexthal looked at his tactical display, showing his own hunting pack. According to Kane's information, 2 of the 6 cruisers that had accompanied him were actually human vessels. He had been commanding a mixed fleet without even knowing it. The reason you never caught me before today, Kane continued, is because every time you got close, your own support ships would provide me with real-time intelligence about your positions and tactics. You've been hunting me with my own allies providing overwatch. The psychological impact was devastating. Every operation, every chase, every near-miss that Zexthal had attributed to luck or skill had actually been carefully orchestrated. The humans hadn't just been staying one step ahead. They had been controlling the entire game. But here's what makes this truly elegant, Chun said from the main screen. We didn't just infiltrate your military. We infiltrated your entire society. Your entertainment industry, your educational system, your religious institutions, your family structures. Humans have been studying and influencing every aspect of Vorthack civilization. A new set of data appeared on the holographic display. Cultural analysis reports, psychological profiles, sociological studies. A complete breakdown of Vorthack society compiled over years of direct observation and participation. The reason we know you'll accept our terms, Kane said, is because we understand your species better than you understand yourselves. We know how your decision-making processes work, how your social hierarchies function, and exactly which psychological triggers will motivate your leaders to choose cooperation over conflict. Zexthal felt a chill of recognition. The humans weren't threatening to destroy the Vorthack Empire. They were calmly explaining why the Empire would choose to transform itself. The difference was terrifying. Our terms are simple, Chun continued. Complete withdrawal from all conquered systems within 1 standard year. Release of all enslaved populations with full reparations for damages caused. Transition to a resource-sharing economy based on mutual cooperation rather than extraction and domination. Kane added a data pad to the growing collection of intelligence materials on Zexthal's command console. That contains detailed implementation plans for restructuring your entire civilization. Social programs to help your people adapt to non-aggressive lifestyles, technological innovations to replace the resources you'll lose through withdrawal, even recreational activities to channel your species' competitive instincts in non-destructive directions. The scope of the planning was incomprehensible. The humans hadn't just figured out how to defeat the Vorthack Empire. They had designed a complete roadmap for transforming Vorthack civilization into something completely different. You've planned our entire future, Zexthal said, his voice hollow with the realization. We've planned several possible futures, Kane corrected. The one I just showed you is what happens if your leaders choose cooperation. Would you like to see what happens if they choose resistance? Before Zexthal could answer, the holographic display shifted to show a different scenario. Vorthack fleets engaging human forces in desperate battles, but every engagement ended the same way. Complete Vorthack defeat. not because humans had superior weapons, but because they had perfect intelligence about every Vorthack move before it happened. In the Resistance scenario, your empire falls within 6 months, Chen explained matter-of-factly. Not through destruction, but through complete systems failure. Every computer network crashes simultaneously. Every ship becomes inoperable. Every communication system goes silent. Your civilization doesn't get destroyed, it just stops working. Kane gestured toward the data pads he had placed on the command console. But that scenario is unnecessary. We've already verified that Vorthack psychology will choose survival and adaptation over destruction and pride. Your leaders will review this intelligence, recognize the futility of resistance, and authorize the cooperation protocol. How can you be so certain? Zexthal asked. Because we've already run this conversation 847 times in simulation, Kane replied. Using psychological profiles of every member of the High Command, detailed behavioral models of Vorthack decision-making processes, and historical analysis of how your species responds to superior force. In 847 out of 847 simulations, the Vorthack Empire chose cooperation after reviewing the complete intelligence package. The certainty in Kane's voice was more unsettling than any threat could have been. The humans weren't hoping the Vorthack would cooperate. They knew it with mathematical precision. Captain, Admiral Chun addressed Zexthal directly. In 36 hours, every Vorthack fleet commander in the galaxy will receive the same intelligence briefing you've just experienced. They'll see the extent of human infiltration, understand the impossibility of military resistance, and recognize that cooperation offers a path to survival and growth rather than destruction. Kane began collecting his data pads and equipment. Your mission is to return to the High Command and present our terms before the other fleet commanders report in. Being the first to deliver this information will position you favorably for the leadership roles that will be available during the transition period. Even in defeat, the humans were offering opportunities for advancement. They had thought through every aspect of the transition, including how to motivate individual Vorthack leaders to become advocates for cooperation rather than obstacles to progress. This conversation never happened, Kane said as he prepared to leave. Officially, your hunting pack experienced a critical system failure that forced you to withdraw. The intelligence package you're carrying was discovered during routine maintenance of your computer systems. You had no direct contact with human forces. Zexthal understood. The humans were allowing him to save face, to return to his superiors without having to admit he had been completely outmaneuvered by a single human ship. Even their psychological warfare was designed to minimize humiliation and preserve the dignity necessary for productive future cooperation. As Kane reached the bridge entrance, he paused and looked back at Zexthal. Captain, I want you to understand something important. This operation wasn't about defeating the Vorthack Empire. It was about saving it. Your species has remarkable potential, but you were heading toward a path that would have led to your extinction within 50 years. Extinction, Zexthal repeated. Your expansion model was unsustainable, Kane explained. You were consuming resources faster than you could acquire them, creating enemies faster than you could defeat them, and breeding social instabilities that would have torn your civilization apart from within. We've offered you a chance to evolve beyond those limitations. Admiral Chen's final words echoed from the main screen as the human ships began to withdraw. Welcome to the galactic community, Captain. We look forward to working with you as allies rather than adversaries. As the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, leaving the Vorthack hunting pack alone with their disabled systems slowly coming back online, Zexthal sat in his command chair, surrounded by data pads that contained the blueprint for his civilization's transformation. The human called Kane had been right about one thing. They really had caught him. But what they had caught wasn't a pirate or a terrorist. They had caught a test subject, a representative sample of Vorthack military thinking that had been carefully studied and analyzed to ensure the success of humanity's larger strategic objectives. Marcus Kane wasn't called the Reaper because he brought death. He was called the Reaper because he harvested information, gathering the intelligence necessary to ensure that when humanity finally revealed itself, the outcome would be inevitable. The hunt was over. The real work was just beginning.